I think that'll be a question asked to me and Coach Painter this week, but every team's different. That was 2 years ago, so I don't think there's really any similarities. They've got some players, but those players have been playing for Coach 2 more years, so there's a lot better, more developed. What I see from Purdue is just a really well-coached team. Matt Painter played the game at a high level, and he's coached, built a really good program at Southern Illinois, and what he's done at Purdue speaks for itself. So they're a team that's been in this position before. We're a team that's new to this as a unit. We've got some individuals that have been at this stage, but not together as a team. So I think the biggest thing in this game is just to understand it's a 40-minute game. There's a lot of distractions, both good and bad, when you get to this stage in the season, but we're really fortunate to be one of the 16 teams left, and we intend on taking advantage of it.
How much of a difference does it make that Haas is likely out for them, especially with that elbow injury? I know that you've obviously kind of dealt with injuries throughout the year, and they're kind of dealing with this injury now.
Yeah, well, in our mind, we're going to prepare like he's going to play. Whenever there's a chance, whenever a player's that competitive, we'll be prepared for him to be on the floor. And he's a great player. Just like Keenan and Zach and Justin, these guys are great players for us. That doesn't define us. We're a team. I think the same could be said for Purdue. They've got really good players, but more valuable to them is their team. Purdue's a team, so we'll prepare like every player is going to be ready, but we're really preparing for Purdue, not one individual player.
They've got 5 guys who are legit 400 shooters and from outside the arc, and they've also, even if Haas doesn't play, they've got Harms, who might be a more athletic big man than Haas is. What kind of dilemmas does that create defensively, knowing how well they'll shoot it, but they've also got legit 7-footers inside too?
Yeah, very similar to a Big 12 game, and the fact that you got 2 things you got to figure out. Certainly if you try to take away the 3-point shot, then you're opening yourself up to being having some problems inside. And if you game plan for the inside, then, the 3-point shot can beat you. So it's just going to be a balance. I would agree with Keenan. We got to try to figure out some ways to maybe take something away from him. You're not going to take everything away from him, but this is where game planning comes in. And, we'll be prepared.
To follow up on that, Will mentioned it, how much they shoot the 3-ball. How would this team compare to what you faced in the last round against Florida?
Yeah, I think Purdue would fit in right with the Big 12. I hope that doesn't happen. I really don't want to have to play Purdue. I already have to play Kansas and Oklahoma and Oklahoma State and West Virginia and Baylor and Iowa State and who am I forgetting, Matt? I'm really not in favor of Purdue coming to the Big 12. We don't need another future Hall of Fame coach and NBA players in the league. But no, I understand the question. They're right there. It's I know a lot's been made of the styles. Like growing up in basketball, you'd hear SEC, athleticism, Big 10, big guys, Big 12. I guess kind of a combination of both. I don't know. I mean, I'm looking at Purdue, and they look as good as anybody we've played. Certainly they've got big guys that can really play, but they've also got guards. So it's going to be very similar to a Big 12 game.
Along those Big 12 lines, you've been preaching it all year long, but is it nice for the nation to realize how good this conference is and maybe even your schedule with Nevada thrown in there as well?
Yeah, we were really pleased when we got Nevada on the schedule last summer. Thought Coach Adams did a great job scheduling that game. We knew they were a team that was going to compete for their conference championship. We knew they were going to be a team that's going to be in the NCAA tournament regardless if they won their conference or not. We knew about the talent on their roster, so that was good scheduling. Worked out for us. And then certainly, with the Big 12, I think all of us in basketball understand how good this league is. Our sport's kind of unique that it's all gauged on the NCAA tournament, and that can be really good or it can be a little bit misleading. But I would tell you that Cincinnati had one of the best seasons I've ever seen this year. I would tell you North Carolina was really good again this year. But it just comes down to a one-game pop. The better team doesn't always win for 40. It's whoever plays better for 40 minutes. So, but I think those of us in the Big 12, and I thought we were going to have 6 teams in the Sweet 16. That's how good I know our league is.
Coach, you talk about raising the level of your game as you advance. After kind of looking at the SFA and Florida game, in your opinion, where are the areas you could improve the most as you guys head to Boston?
It's always the same in basketball. You know, you look at your defense, and when defense, you've got your transition defense, your half-court defense, and then you got to get the rebound. And the same thing kind of on offense. You got to get the ball up the court. That's transition. You got to try to get a good shot. That's your offense. And then you got to get a percentage of your misses, which is offensive rebounding. So we always high-tech coaching. I know it's really complicated, but we just always try to pay attention to those 6 areas and try to get better at them. We learn from what we do good. Today we'll show great clips of all 6 areas, and we'll also show weaknesses in those 6 areas. So we try to teach through the good and the bad, and then we try to just stay focused on what's important.
Coach, Zaire had, I believe, 18 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists, and a steal the other night against Florida. Can you just talk about, from your perspective, what he brought to the game?
Yeah, and then Culver's floor game, 9 rebounds, double-digit scoring, 4 assists and no turnovers. Just 2 young guys playing at a high level. And, you know, I know, like, academically you're a freshman, sophomore, junior, and you get the, you know, 3rd-year junior, get the 7th-year senior. Was that back to school or Rodney Dangerfield? So I don't know, like, at what point we stopped calling these guys freshmen. I guess they're freshmen, but they played a lot of minutes. I mean, look at how many minutes they've played. There'll be sophomores on teams in this tournament that haven't played as much minutes as those guys. So I think, again, the most impressive thing to me, just kind of being a basketball guy and, like, taking a step back, is just those guys haven't hit the wall. I mean, they're just consistent. They're playing. You got to start with John Riley, and you got to go back to their high school coaches and everybody that's contributed to this. But those guys are playing great basketball. But, you know, on the biggest stage, too, those young guys filling up the stat sheet like that was impressive.
And there was talk about Sean Sutton drawing up that play all the timeout, talking about the alley-oop. What has he brought to you as an advisor this season?
Who told you that? No. Well, it's just we just controlled the guy that was going to set the ball screen, and then sometimes in our ball screens we have people spaced out, and sometimes we have them around the basket. But no, so you know the NCAA's got rules and stuff. But Coach Sutton can kind of advise me and stuff, and I always spend a lot of time with him before the game. But during the game, I think somebody kind of tried to reflect some of that to me. But Keenan Evans, I'll give Keenan Evans the credit on that. Keenan probably calls more plays for this team than I do. But that was just kind of simple, something we always do, is just pick and roll with a guy around the basket. And I thought Keenan made a great read. Screen was great. And also the spacers on that. A lot of times people only see the pass and the dunk, but the floor was spaced good too. So if they would have took away that dunk, then we had shooters ready to make shots.
Along with the young guys, what else have you been impressed about with your team moving forward into the tournament?
You know, all sorts of things, obviously, but really the consistency with this group, kind of embracing the idea that you have to play your best basketball. You know, for us, this started on senior night, playing against a really good TCU team. It's a huge game for us. And then I thought we were a real factor in the Big 12 conference tournament. We were playing good basketball there. Just lost to a West Virginia team that's pretty good. And I think they're still in this tournament. And then certainly in the NCAA tournament, we played 2 really good teams. Stephen F. Austin's good enough right now to be in this mix, and we all know how good Florida is. So a lot of things have impressed me about our team, but I just kind of like the way that we've embraced playing our best basketball at this time of year. And what's even more makes it more impressive is we got a lot of guys that haven't been through this situation. So, like, you know, against Florida, we're playing against a team that's been in the grade 8. We're playing against players that have done this, and we're kind of there for the first time as a unit. And so I just think it's pretty impressive that with these young guys and with these seniors that have really never done it at this level at this time of year, that we're kind of doing this journey together. We look like a composed team that's maybe been there before, but we really haven't.
So I noticed during the Florida game, after the Zaire dunk, there was a little bit of celebration, and you just got your team together, and you all just really didn't look complacent yet after that. You knew there were still about 20 or so seconds left to go to wrap that one up. How much has that lack of complacency really played a role in your guys' success this season and in the tournament?
Yeah, that's just focus. You know, you play the game to the buzzer. So you say buzzer or horn?
I thought it was bone.
Yeah, that's us. But Yeah. So it comes from a lot of things. I'd like to think that comes from our coaching staff, keeping the guys focused. Definitely comes from our players. It also just comes from like basketball. Like just in this tournament alone, in the last 24 hours, everybody's kind of seen what's happened. A big lead's not big enough. Last second shots happen. So you play it all the way to the end. And we spent a lot of time with our team talking about that. So I would like to think that our team understands with a 4 or 5 point lead and a couple seconds left, the game is not over. But on the other hand, when you're down a little bit, the game isn't over either. And that's we internally say play it to the bone. But yeah, I was actually talking about the sound. Is that a buzzer or a horn? Buzzer.
Coach, without talking about a specific player, would you be more pleased with a player scoring, we'll say, 30 points in a game or playing elite-level defense that is absolutely shutting down their best scorer?
I mean, would you rather your mom call you today and tell you how much she loves you or your dad? Yeah. You would.
You're asking the question, I'm answering it.
Yeah. I mean, I would rather win. I mean, Mark Adams, he would tell you defense. I really think Mark Adams wants to beat Purdue like 12-9. I would just like to beat Purdue. But it's going to be a lot harder to do than say. They're such a good team. Probably a little both. I think I've coached teams like that too. We've coached teams before that had guys that would score 30 points consistently. A lot of things have to go on those teams. We had great screeners, great passers. Every team's a little different. But I would tell you at this level, I think you have to have balance. You'd have to remind me of a team that had one 30-point-a-game scorer and made a run in this tournament. I can't think of it. I know Danny and the Miracles with the Kansas team was special with Coach Brown, but they had really good players around Danny Manning on that team. But I think balance is something that we really value. So as much as our guys would probably like to drop 30, I'd rather just win the game.
With how much bigger that this lineup's going to be than the one you played against Florida, and with Tommy and Norris only playing 8 minutes in that last game combined, how big of an opportunity is this for them to really get a lot more minutes and be a lot more involved in this game?
Yeah, absolutely, and an opportunity for our team to play better because Norris and Tommy are two of our best players. Bunch of games this year we don't win without Norris, probably our toughest guy pound for pound, our best defensive rebounder, and our best presence around the basket. And then with Tommy, he's played some great basketball down the stretch. Big 12 tournament, found a whole nother level. With his passing ability and shooting ability and the ability to play inside and out. And then one of our best defenders when he talks and when he's engaged. The game against Florida was just it was a unique game, and you make that coaching decision, you just hope that it works out. And I told those guys, because if you make that decision, it doesn't work out, you just feel with regret. Maybe should have played Norris and Tommy more. So coaching, there's no art to it. You just try to – a lot of it comes down to gut feel and preparation. So I thought our best chance to win was to try to play with the lineup we had. But I have a lot of confidence in Norris Tommy. It's going to be great to get him back on the court in this Purdue game. We expect him to play the whole game, and we expect him to play great.
I know the 24-hour rule's expired, but can you go back to maybe your favorite memory or something that you took away from that win against Purdue a couple years ago?
I thought you were going to say the Florida game. Yeah. Every team's different. We came back from we were down a lot of points at the last media timeout, but we played it to the bone. And that was just a special team, that Little Rock team. Heard from a lot of those guys in the last couple of weeks, and actually thought about those guys when we won the game the other night. Those guys, Josh and Stetson and Roger, and I hate naming names, you'll forget guys, but all those guys, Kimmy and Reese and Liss, all those guys came to mind immediately because that was a team that was built to get to the second weekend too. We just came up a little short against Iowa State and Coach Prone, and I swear to you, Larry Bird was in that game. They said his name was George Niang, but I'm telling you it was Larry Bird. But no, every game's different. That one probably overcoming a deficit late in the game and giving ourselves a chance was probably the thing that came to mind.
We'll go to Bailey to wrap it up.
I'll ask you what I asked some of the players in post-game after Florida. It's kind of a two-part self-reflection. My first one was, Do you see Chris Beard being a little more intense in the moment of the game than even some of the players? And the second question was, how easy or hard is it to play for Coach Beard? How would you answer those two?
I think intensity, it would just be in their eyes versus mine. You know, I actually think I kind of try to calm down in competition. I think I'd be a lot more intense in practice than I am in games. So I think that's ultimately my goal, to give our guys a chance to win. Sometimes you got to fire them up a little bit, and then sometimes you got to show calmness and confidence. So I got a lot of confidence in myself when I do that. My confidence comes from the guys that are surrounded with me. When you got the guys that I have to my right and left, you know, a lot of good decisions are made because I listen. Then what was the second part? I'm not good at the. Yeah, I think ultimately, if you love basketball, and if you're a competitor, and if you want to win a national championship, and if you want to play in the NBA, or you want to max out your abilities and play in Europe or go to law school or whatever you want, if you want to be elite at what you want to do, then I think it's easy to play for me. But if you're not those categories, then you and I will probably have some problems along the way. And that's why this year's team has been really minimal problems, because these seniors, they want to be great. They want to be coached. Good players want to be coached. Like, Dungy didn't follow Muhammad Ali around because they were buddies. Ali was the greatest of all time, and he wanted to be, and he had somebody pushing him there. Michael Jordan didn't hire a personal trainer because he liked the guy. He hired him because he made him better. And good players want to be coached. And at the end of the day, I don't think I'm better than anybody else. But, you know, if you come play for us, you're going to be coached. And you're going to be coached hard.
Coach Barrett always on me saying, get some offensive glass, always go. And that kind of keeps the team going, offensive rebounds.
Jared?
It's always important to rebound, no second chances. We try to make sure the team don't get any second chances. So it's important for us to box out and get the rebound.
Jared, also just wanted to ask you, you know, you had 4 turnovers in that game against SFA. I know you probably didn't play as well as you wanted to. How good did it feel to have such a, you know, an improved game against Florida on Saturday night?
It was pretty good. The whole team and a lot of people on the staff supported me and just said, just forget it and on to the next game. So I just try not to let that get me down and play confidence in the next game.
Again, questions for the players. We get the microphone to you. Go ahead and go to the back with John. Yeah.
So I guess this is for Zaire and Jared. How have the vets been in the first 2 games of the tournament? How have they made things easier for you? And just, yeah, how's that been going?
It's been great. They told us how it was going to be because they been in it, had a little meeting in the hotel room. They just said, just play calm and just keep doing you.
It's been awesome to play in March Madness. The games are a little more intense because if you lose, your season's over. So you just play as hard as you can every possession.
Keenan, can you just speak to the strength of the Big 12 Conference to have 4 Big 12 teams playing in the Sweet 16?
Big 12 Conference, strongest conference in the country, my opinion, you know, and just from us having 4 teams in the Sweet 16 just shows you how playing in this conference has gotten us ready for this tournament. And, you know, it's good to see, you know, them in the tournament. Hopefully, you know, they keep winning as well as us, and, you know, we run into each other again.
From your perspective, what was going through your mind? You know, Coach said it was drawn up, you know, in the timeout, but just can you take us through that play for us?
I mean, it was jaw-dropping. Like, when I realized I made it, I was just shook, and I couldn't believe it.
Again, questions for the players? We'll get the microphone to you. Go back to Carlos here on the board.
Keenan, I don't know if you guys have talked about it yet, but I guess just what have you seen from Purdue, or what are you kind of expecting? And I know Coach talks about having to raise that level. What do you feel you have to do once you get to this this next game against Purdue?
We know that they're a very talented team. Sweet 16, you know, every team at this point is, you know, really good. So, you know, that we just have to improve from, you know, the CR mistakes from SFA, Florida game, and, you know, make sure we, you know, get better going into this Purdue game, and just lock in more, and just once we start scouting reports that we're all focused, and, you know, take some stuff away from them.
Hi, Keenan, this is for you. This is arguable, but last season, from my perspective, it seemed like there were some struggles in the end of the games as far as closing out the games. And then coaches said, and y'all said that y'all worked on it. Everything y'all did was to finish things out. Y'all turned what you could perceive as a weakness into maybe y'all's biggest strength. How were y'all able to do that?
Just from coach putting us in tough situations where we have to finish strong, and that's one of our mottos is finish. Whether it be in the weight room, Coach Riley, he'll make us finish out with a certain workout at the end of all of our workouts. So, and then when it comes to Coach Adams and Coach Beard on the court, you think you're done with practice. No, you got one more drill to finish before it's over. So, just them putting us in situations where we have to finish has helped us along this way.
I tell the players all the time, you got to elevate your game in certain situations throughout a season. So like summer workouts, you put in a lot of time. Then when school starts in the fall and we have our first official workout, you got to elevate your game. And certainly when official practice starts in October, elevate your game, non-conference. In our league, and Keenan knows this better than I do because he's out there playing, but when you get to the Big 12, you have to elevate your game. And then the postseason is no different. But with that being said, I think Matt Dunaway has elevated his game. I've never seen him. He's just under control now, man. He's talking about portals, and he's mentioning the players to my right and left. I just think Matt Dunaway's elevated his game. Any questions?